Hi, this is Congressman Guy Reschenthaler, and you're listening to Get Going with Guy, a conservative's guide to cutting through the propaganda of the woke left and the mainstream media, a podcast where hypocrisy has no home. All right, bluff, bottom line, up front, Democrats are trying to push through roughly $4.5 trillion of new spending on social justice priorities and what I would really describe as Green New Deal policies. All right, let's just contextualize this. So this week, the Senate passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. I'm going to call this the infrastructure bill. They passed that by a vote of 69 to 30. Now, that's a bill that's just under 3,000 pages. And like the average person, quick fact, the average person can read roughly 55 pages an hour. So if you were to sit down and read through this bill, it nonstop, no sleeping, no stopping to eat, nothing, just sitting down reading this, the average person, it would take them over 2 days to just read this bill. It is huge. But let me just back up, guys. We've got a lot of things going on here. You've got AOC and Bernie trying to leverage, trying to get another package, a budget reconciliation through, and you still have the House transportation and infrastructure bill at play. So let's just take a step back. I want to just wade through this and take a look. So you've got three different bills. One is you have the House bill on transportation that passed. It was like a Green New Deal wish list that was $500 billion. Do not confuse that with what the Senate passed. That was a $1 trillion. They're calling it a bipartisan bill. We're going to explain that. They're also calling it an infrastructure bill. I'm going to show that it's not all infrastructure. So you have those two infrastructure bills going. Then you have a $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation bill. Now, the reason this is all getting conflated in the media and when everyone's talking is because of this. It's because Nancy Pelosi is telling the traditional Democrats, and when I say traditional Democrats, I mean liberal Democrats, because there are no blue dog Democrats. Maybe there's one exception to that rule, but it's really the socialists fighting the liberals, with social justice warriors fighting the liberals in the Democrat Party right now. So you have the liberals saying that they want to pass the $1 trillion infrastructure bill. The social justice warriors, the progressives, who are about 100, 150 in the Democrat conference, they want to pass the $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation. They want that first. So you're hearing these described together. They're being tied together because Nancy Pelosi knows that she needs to sweeten the pot for the liberals that don't want to vote for the progressive package. It's $3.5 trillion. She also needs the liberal progressives or the social justice warriors to vote on the liberal bill, the liberal transportation bill. So she's trying to tie them together to get this through. It is quite a mess, and as an outsider, a Republican looking at the Democrat Party, you gotta love the turmoil and chaos that's going on that party. But I digress. Let's go back and just talk about the $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill that passed the Senate. Again, not to be confused with the House bill, not to be confused with the spending bill, the budget reconciliation bill with the House. Okay, the $1 trillion infrastructure bill. A lot of this, frankly, I agree with. I think we need roads and bridges. We need works on locks and dams. We need to have improvements towards just general hard infrastructure, our rural broadband, for example. That's what I believe is true infrastructure. Too much of this bill, though, is not about that kind of infrastructure. A lot of it, we'll go through some of this. A lot of it is actually subsidizing things like electric vehicles. You've got $60 billion that's going to trains, going to Amtrak. Normally, I'd say that's fine, but they want to replace air travel with train travel. You got money going to electric buses, electric ferry boats, green energy production. You have $5 million going to reduce the temperature of, and wait for it, pavement in our cities. $500 million in a transportation and infrastructure bill going to try to reduce the temperature of pavements in our cities. Pete Buttigieg, he gets $7.5 billion just for electronic vehicle charging stations. If you remember, Henry Ford didn't build the Model T. He didn't build the Ford Empire because the federal government went around putting in gasoline stations. The free market did that. If these electronic vehicles are as popular, as great as people say, we'll have the EV charging stations around. what you're seeing here is you're seeing that this bill just laden with social justice warrior and climate change concepts that are now embedded in our infrastructure. And we can have a discussion on all those things. But the problem is this is now in the infrastructure package. That's a problem. So normally to me, I think infrastructure is roads and bridges. To put a number on that in this bill, only $110 billion out of the $1 trillion, only 10% actually goes to roads and bridges. Yet it's still being called a transportation and infrastructure bill. Fun fact, 64 times in the bill, the word equity is mentioned. If that doesn't show you the priorities and how the Democrats are now just beholden to the social justice warriors, to those liberal progressives, equity being mentioned 64 times in a T&I, transportation and infrastructure bill, that tells you who's in control of this party and where this bill is headed. My good friend, Senator Pat Toomey, he summarized this the best. He said the bill is, and I quote, "It's too expensive, too expansive, and too unpaid for." Well said, Senator Toomey. And look, I just want to put everything in context of the economy. We are facing inflation at record numbers. Inflation is a hidden tax. It hurts the working class the hardest. And we have this $1 trillion infrastructure package that only 10% is going to actual roads and bridges. We then have it on the back of that $3.5 trillion, what's being described as human infrastructure, that's being banted about. We're facing these huge spending measures that is going to drive up inflation. Everything you pay for is going to cost more money because of this inflation. Stagnation is actually starting to happen. All those gains from President Trump with working wages going up, that's all been negated now because of inflation. It's really sad. Look, I don't think we need Green New Deal policies. I don't think we need to kowtow to the far left. I think we need actual infrastructure as defined traditionally as roads, bridges, airports, locks and dams. I'll even throw in rural broadband. But this is not the way to go. We're also running this at a deficit. This will not be paid for. And from an economic point of view, deficits are just a tax on future generations of Americans. That's unfair. That's not good government. There are significant problems with this bill. All right, that's it for today, gang. I'll see you next time. And as always, just call me Guy. Oh, and if you don't think the Democrats don't want to defund the police, Cori Bush said, and I'm quoting, "Defunding the police has to happen. We need to defund the police and put that money in social safety nets." She said that on August 8th, 2021. So yeah, Democrats still want to defund the police.